directing the Border Patrol to cut razor wire. This makes no sense.
No, exactly. And I know the former president, Donald Trump, has suggested to all the Republican governors out there, send members of your state's National Guard. In your case, Governor, it would be the Oklahoma National Guard. Send them down to Texas to help Greg Abbott.
The American middle class is under attack, and it's not just from the usual suspects. So picture this, guys. So you're working hard every single day, trying to make ends meet, dreaming of a little peace of mind in your own slice of the American dream, right? But now there's a new twist to the tale. Cities across the nation are seeing a flood of illegal migrants.
Now you're seeing people speak up from within the black community, where Joe Biden and Democrats have long enjoyed a massive gap of support. But from, you played one statement right now from 50 Cent. We heard it from Charlemagne the God, who is a very popular host on The Breakfast Club. That's where Hillary Clinton showed up in 2016 and pulled out the hot sauce. Joe Biden says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
It's about the wave which is crashing into our daily lives. It's reshaping the very fabric of our communities. Get ready, folks. U.S. citizens fear crisis is spreading rapidly across the United States. And this isn't just...
Sharon Alfonsi did a report for 60 Minutes, and she was talking about about the people who are crossing the border and where they're actually coming from and what their economic situation roughly appears to be. And it's not always what people might think. So watch this.
We noticed middle-class migrants from China arriving with rolling bags. They told us they took flights all the way to Mexico. We wondered how all of these migrants knew about this particular entryway into California. The answer was in their hands.
How do you know about that? Douyin. Okay, TikTok.
Oh, you learned on TikTok.
Learned on TikTok. Just take a flight to Mexico, and if you are good at walking, you can get into the United States, so you don't have to worry about coming through the regular ports of entry at an airport when you don't have the ability to enter the country, and you're middle class from China.
This is a growing concern regarding illegal migrants or immigrants coming in and sparking anxiety from coast to coast here in the United States. In fact, as this crisis unfolds, it's becoming increasingly clear that the facts are far-reaching, touching every corner of the country and every aspect of our lives. I mean, just take a second, chew on this headline. Chinese migrants are the fastest growing group crossing from Mexico into the U.S. at the southern border.
There are people who are getting the message in places far away from the United States that by design, we now have this open border where catch and release has been implemented, where on day one, President Biden stopped construction of the border wall. Title 42 was eliminated. Remain in Mexico was eliminated. We saw rhetoric from the President of the United States to, you played a clip from Eric Adams. We saw it with governors like Kathy Hochul, essentially encouraging people to come to New York, let's say. That was December of 2021 with Kathy Hochul. And now they're all changing their tunes, but the message has gone out that that we have this open border and they're being encouraged to come, and they're leaving places across the entire world to come here, and they're getting through and reporting back.
Are you guys surprised? Like, this isn't the story that we're used to hearing, but this is happening right now. It is literally shaping our neighborhoods and our economies. These guys, some of these people are entering the country illegally. Now, hear me out, guys. Mayor Eric Adams, he is now feeling the pinch, stepping up with a plea in Albany, asking lawmakers to help shoulder half of the migrant costs. So even New York City can't afford to keep giving out free money. So imagine the kind of strain that we're talking about here. You know, that's got city leaders scrambling for relief. And if that wasn't enough, take a look at this one. New York City rolling out a whopping $53 million prepaid gift card program, dishing out up to $1,000 per month to migrant families.
Tonight, New York City's mayor pushing back on criticism of a new $50 million program to hand out prepaid debit cards to migrant families.
We need to dispel the rumor that we gave American Express cards to everyone.
Adams insisting the prepaid cards would curb the cost of inefficient food distribution that has led to expensive food waste, potentially saving taxpayers roughly $7 million a year. Adding the cards can only be used for food and baby supplies, with a limit of up to $1,000 per month for a family of 4.
If this is successful, we're going to expand it even more.
The pilot program drawing immediate criticism, including from rapper 50 Cent, who went on to social media to vent his frustration, writing, "Maybe Trump is the answer."
Now, this is real money, guys. Money that's got to come from somewhere. And it's a tab that the middle class might just find itself footing. Now, let's go ahead and break it down. So what do you think that this mass influx of migrants is going to be doing to the housing market? I mean, it's definitely going to be feeling the squeeze, with the demand for affordable housing going through the roof, apartments, flats, condos, rental houses. I mean, don't be shocked when you find your rent ticking up or that dream home slipping right through your fingers. And it's not just about where we lay our heads. It's about jobs too. The labor market, it's getting a wake-up call. It's getting a shake-up with migrants filling in the gaps, but also turning up the heat on the competition. That job you've been thinking about? Just got a few more applicants to compete against. And don't get me started on social services and social security. We're talking language training, employment services, free Medicaid or free Medicare, social security numbers, social security benefits. I mean, it sounds noble, right? But it's a cost. All of this is going to cost something. It's going to come with a bill. And it's definitely going to be served up at a table where the American middle class finds itself more and more squeezed. So as we attempt to navigate this new reality, it's very clear that the stakes are high and the challenges are real. But it's not just about the new problems. It's about the conversation that we need to be having in order to face these problems together. Because at the end of the day, it's about our communities, our jobs, our homes are on the line. And credit card debt's not going away anytime soon, which brings me to the next issue. Basically, couple this with interest rates, credit card delinquencies at all-time record highs, and you can clearly see that folks are driving ever so close to the edge.
We talk about economic uncertainty and people not having enough savings for 3 months. This seems like the savings for 3 to 6 months. We've been hearing this for years. And then, we talk about this economic uncertainty. We talk inflation numbers are both coming down. Gas prices are coming down. Stock market, we're looking at record highs day to day. Where is that uncertainty?
Well, we live in a world of uncertainty. I don't have to tell you that in the business that you're in, Chris. Every day we come in and we're sort of rocked by some development that can have economic implications. And so we've been through a lot in the last 4 years, one of the most serious economic downturns we've had in history, with a 14.7% national unemployment rate during the coronavirus lockdown. And that came about 15 years after another very severe economic crisis. And we are just a country that lives paycheck to paycheck. Our new bank rate survey out today finds that only 44% of Americans can pay an emergency expense of $1,000 or more from savings. And yet this is at a time when the national unemployment rate is 3.7%, just a few ticks above that historic low of 3.4 in April of last year.
Why do you think people don't get the message that you do need to save? You do need to have that money tucked away for emergency expenses. I mean, I guess we're all guilty at times of running up credit card debt or making that frivolous purchase. But I mean, essentially, you do have to budget. You have to know that you need a certain amount of money for rent and utilities and food and things like that.
I think we just don't prioritize savings the way we should, Chris. And listen, we live in a society that prioritizes spending, not saving, not sort of living to spend another day.
Now, of course, some might argue that there's just not enough cash flow within our wages to be able to save money and invest. But again, that's purely subjective. However, there are, of course, more numbers that tell a very drastic change in how Americans live nowadays. You see, new data is now showing that nearly half of Americans have only $500 or less in their savings accounts. Can you believe this, guys? I mean, before last year, I was telling you about how many people don't even have at least $1,000 to cover an unexpected emergency. Now they're lowering the bar and discovering that Very few Americans even have $500. Can you believe this? This is ridiculous. 29% has reported that they had between like $501 and $5,000 in their bank accounts. Meanwhile, only 21% said that they had like $5,001 or more. Now, this is a very low number, guys. And you gotta wonder, what are these people who have less than $500 gonna do if they ever, like, by chance get hit with an emergency that's more than that? Like, do they then use credit cards? Do they borrow money from friends, family, charity, maybe get a payday lender loan or go to like a title loan place? I mean, like, what then? Now, of course, you might think that you're not gonna have an emergency anytime soon, but did you know that like 43% of Americans who have credit card debt say that it was due to an emergency? Now, of course, how you define an emergency is up to you. Some people will be like, yo, the new Jordans was on sale. That was an emergency because you never know when I'm gonna see them again. I mean, like, that's not a real emergency. Emergency is like, okay, your car engine blew up and now you're stranded. But I digress. But that's right, guys. They are now carrying a balance on their credit card since they had to pay for this unexpected emergency. Now, in most cases, it was either a medical expense, maybe a car expense and home repairs that needed to be fixed ASAP. I get that. However, it is not advisable to treat your credit card as sort of an emergency fund. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, especially since there are no funds in there to begin with. All you can do with it is take on more debt. And the big risk that I personally faced, me and my family faced years ago, is I used to think that I could use my credit cards as an emergency fund. Until 2008, 2009 happened and all the banks got scared and they slashed my credit lines. Here, I thought I had a $15,000 credit limit on one of my credit cards and then they slashed it to like $1,000. So much for that emergency fund, right? Don't let that happen to you. And this is why experts are saying that Americans should instead be building up their emergency funds in case this ever happens to them. So this is my warning to you guys. No, this is not financial advice. I'm just saying I've been there and I got burned. So hopefully you don't get burned too. Which brings me to the high yield savings accounts. Have you guys ever tried this? So basically it's an account where your money, in this case, your emergency money, can collect interest, right? And it's just kind of disappointing to know that not many people are aware of these kinds of accounts because these can give you an annual percentage rate of around 4.5% compared to normal savings accounts that only give you 0.6% annual percentage yield. Matter of fact, I actually found some savings accounts that pay like more than 5% if y'all want to know about them. But it is so new to some of us that only like 9.8% of Americans who have savings accounts say that they have this kind of an account. This just blows my mind. I mean, that's a very, very low percentage, guys. And it just kind of goes to show that these opportunities, they're not openly talked about enough. In the exact same way that Americans are unaware of what's really happening to their money. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and tell you guys what to do with your money, but it is important to stay informed on these kind of things. So, you know, like, did you hear about what happened with Capital One? All right, so here's a lowdown. So Capital One apparently misled customers to think that their accounts were like high yield savings accounts. So accounts that would give us at least like 4% interest compared to the usual 0.3%. This account was also called Capital One's 360 savings. And with interest rates being raised, customers also assumed that they would also get better rates as well. This was because the bank then created a new high yield savings account that was named 360 Performance Savings. Very similar name to the initial one that we talked about, right? Now, to make matters worse, the 360 savings account was eliminated completely, but Capital One didn't move the money from those accounts to the new high yield savings account, keeping its interest rate instead to 0.3%. Now, I understand, it might not be legal for the bank to move your money just like that in that sense, but they also didn't bother to tell the customers that just because these two plans were named similarly doesn't mean that they both had the same annual interest rate percentage. So now Capital One is facing this big, huge lawsuit because of this due to unrealized profits that some customers argue should have gone to them. Now, what's insane is that some of these customers have been with the bank for years. I mean, one of them has actually reported to have lost out on at least thousands of dollars in interest. And while he asked for backdated interest to be reimbursed to him, the bank pretty much just said, it was his responsibility to know what was going on with his money. Wow. I mean, they could have at least sent a letter out saying like what was going on. Now, on the one hand, the bank technically is right. You should know what's going on with your money, your savings, your interest rates, your rate of return, ROI, and your money. But at the same time, it's a little bit questionable for these customers as to why both plans were named so similarly, but yet had such a huge difference in terms of interest rates. But what do you guys think about this? Was this done on purpose, or did the bank accidentally mislead some of their customers? Now, since we're talking about savings, I want to talk about something that's kind of a sobering reality for some Americans right here at home. So a research came out that covered the minimum savings that you would need for the 50 biggest cities here in our country. And of course, since we don't have the time to talk about all 50, well, let's just talk about number 50 and number 1. How about that? All right, so let's stick to a 3-month emergency fund, okay? So let's just pretend you lived in Detroit, which is like number 50, right? You would need to have at least $6,551 in savings to keep yourself afloat for 3 months. Comparing that to San Francisco, and well, you're gonna need around $26,182 in savings to keep yourself grounded for 3 months over there. Now, the trend for 2024 may have some unpredictability, and this of course goes to show like just how different things are in different places right here at home. But the one constant thing that we can actually count on for this year is that we should expect more layoffs. Now, you got to think that these numbers become more real once people lose their jobs, something that the Federal Reserve continues to work on. Remember, we all have to lose our jobs for the sake of inflation coming down. You know what I mean? That's some bull. But what do you guys think about all this? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. By the way, if you made it this far in the video, if you enjoyed the content, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna do my best to keep my ear to the ground so I can keep you guys informed 24/7. Before I go, I just want to thank y'all for your time. Appreciate you. I'll see you on the next video.